So, a little movie that you might have heard of called The Last Jedi has just come out within the past couple of days, and I just got out of seeing it no less than 20 minutes ago, and I wanted to put my thoughts down before they faded away to a degree. Now, I did not go into this film unspoiled. I have seen numerous reaction videos and spoiler videos, and I have to disagree with all of them. I do. This movie is not without its flaws. No Star Wars movie is free of flaws. That is something that we can all agree on. But I will say that I enjoyed it quite a bit. And so I thought I would do my review of Star Wars The Last Jedi, Episode 8, and both the good and the bad. Now, there will be spoilers in this review. However, I will put up a spoiler warning when that happens. So anybody who wants to follow along up to that point is more than welcome to do so. And at the spoiler mark, if you don't want to be spoiled, turn off the video. It's that simple as that. If you want to be spoiled, and I think there's enough spoilers out there that I think most people at this point have gotten a pretty good idea what's going on, well, that's okay too. But on to the review. First up, I have to say this is one of the most visually beautiful Star Wars films that we have had to date. From the lush environments, the fantastic ship designs, the fact that when Leia's cruiser, a Mon Cal battleship, is coming under fire, you can actually see the shields responding to the cannon fire that they are under. Everything down to the smallest detail is lovingly done, with a few exceptions. Unfortunately, Supreme Commander Snoke is kind of, well, he's Andy Serkis in frickin' CGI. There's not much I can say about that. He looks very good. He looks very believable, but you can tell when they're using actual props to interact with someone and when he's a CGI caricature talking to someone. It is a bit jarring, but overall, it is an absolutely beautiful film. And it has, I wouldn't say it's got the better fight scenes. It really, nothing is going to beat the duels between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in Cloud City from Empire Strikes Back, or their subsequent duel in the Death Star 2 in Return of the Jedi. But what combat we do have is very well done, in my opinion. The starship combat, what little there is absolutely fantastic. And overall, I have to give a lot of props to both Adam Driver, who is someone I don't personally like very much, more due to association than anything else. His very, very conflicted Kylo Ren comes across so powerfully in this that it's something we didn't see as much of in The Force Awakens. And I think that if it continues, Episode 9 will be very, very good, at least from his perspective. Daisy Ridley also did a very good job as Rey. And I think that we can lay the Mary Sue complaints to rest at this point. And I've made them myself. I am more than willing to say that I have made those complaints about her being a Mary Sue, mostly due to the fact that everything she has done has come very, very easily to her. And I want to say that there's still shades of that, but not to the degree that it really put me off the film like it did in the first time around. Chewbacca is, of course, a wonderful presence, and more than anything else, Mark Hamill gives the best performance I've ever seen him do. His Luke Skywalker is angry and bitter, and there's a very good chance that, having seen interviews with Mark Hamill after this movie was finished and when it was awaiting release, it comes off as very genuine. And I can see why that is the case, but further elaboration on that we'll have to wait for the spoiler section. And Carrie Fisher is really going to be missed. She had a quiet strength in this film that was, I think, grossly underappreciated. Unfortunately, she's not in the film a lot. Just due to circumstances, more of which I will elaborate on later, she doesn't have as much of a screen presence as Daisy Ridley as Rey, or John Boyega as Finn, or Poe himself, honestly. It's not a bad thing. They do it sparingly, I think, and I think she really shines in the times that she is on screen, but I would have liked to have seen more of her, especially with the fact that she has recently passed away, which is quite a blow. It really is. It's really hard seeing her on screen and knowing that this is going to be the last time we see her. I don't know what they're going to do with her character after this film. I have a feeling that in the opening crawl it is going to mention her passing, or perhaps there will be some dialogue at the beginning of the film to do so. But she is going to be missed because she lent a very quiet strength to the film overall. But like I said, everything from starship design to the little bit of starship combat we had, to just the interactions between Luke and Rey, Finn and his new companion for the film, Rose. I don't know her last name. I think it's Tico. I think it's Rose Tico. Everybody's been calling her Chubby Rose. I think that is more than undeserved. And Poe himself, the actor that plays Poe, does a fantastic job as well. But there are some missteps with a lot of these characters that I will have to elaborate on in the spoiler section because I can't really bring it to that. But overall, it does drag at points, but it wouldn't be a Star Wars film without that, to be completely honest. And some things feel a little bit contrived, but I walked out of the film just very much looking forward to the next one. And I think that it's almost a matter of not being able to see the forest for the trees. There's a lot of little throwaway lines that help build the atmosphere of what's going on at any given point that I think were easily missed, and therefore led to circumstances that just they don't feel as complete, or they feel a little bit contrived at points. And there are some moments that are very, very dumb. But again, it's a Star Wars film. You're going to have that. None of the dialogue drops to the level of, say, Attack of the Clones with the "I hate sand." Thankfully, I will say that the dialogue, for the most part, is very well done. And that's what I'm going to leave it for that. And the next part of this is going to be the spoiler section. I literally cannot say anything more than the fact that I enjoyed the film and that it was visually fantastic without going into characters, plot, and contrivances. And that will have to wait for the spoilers. So, let's roll the spoilers. Alright, so now for the bad part of this review. I've said the good things. Visually, it was fantastic. I loved the characters, at least the actor's portrayal of the characters. Now it's time to delve into the things that really do drag the film down quite a bit. First of all, the plot. Now, at the end of The Force Awakens, Planet Death Star, Starkiller Base, but fuck it, I'm calling it Planet Death Star because it's a much more fitting title for it, is destroyed, but not until after the capital worlds of the New Republic are destroyed, along with their fleets surrounding said planets. The opening crawl for this says that the First Order reigns. It's the very first line after the Star Wars in the Last Jedi. Now, there is a problem with this. The main problem being is that the First Order can't be everywhere. And I can't imagine that other planets don't have their own personal defense forces. Even if we don't have a main military like the Empire did, the Republic didn't have one. They had personal defense fleets everywhere. You know, each planet had their own defense, and they'd join up together for a task force if it was really necessary for them to all join together to take out a problem. But in this case, it seems like they didn't. And the First Order is just taking over everything practically overnight. And for a splinter group of the Empire, they are really the ISIS of the Empire at this point. The Empire itself, the Imperial Remnant, still exists. It still has a very small sector of space that it controls, but they've been heavily demilitarized. The First Order are the really fanatical fuckers that dicked off to the outer reaches or unknown space and set up their own little caliphate, for lack of a better term. I can understand them having the resources to buy battleships. Somebody's got to be making these Star Destroyers. Starkiller Base, aka Planet Death Star, in itself was fucking out there. Supreme Leader Snoke has a battleship that I swear to God is about freaking 60 miles wide. It's enormous. And it's beautiful looking, but it's also ridiculous. The problem we have is that the entire plot of this movie revolves around the idea that the First Order has the technology to track a ship through hyperspace. And because of that, even though Poe manages to destroy a Imperial dreadnought, or First Order dreadnought, I should say, since they're not actually Imperials, although at the loss of his entire bombing wing, because they're using gravity bombs in space. Okay, fine, it's Star Wars, and we do have those conceits. But they're not using B-wings or Y-wings, which are purpose-made bombers. The B-wing itself is nowhere to be found in this movie. Instead, we have these boxy bullshit bombers that slowly trudge into position as they're being ripped apart. And as soon as one gets hit, because of the close formation that they're in, most of them go up in smokes because they're so close together. Except for one ship that manages to make it to the target, drop its bombs on a dreadnought, and it is subsequently destroyed. Poe gets demoted for this because Leia specifically instructs him to break off his attack after needling the shit out of Hux, which was admittedly very funny. The problem is that they were evacuating the planet that the Resistance was on, because Starkiller Base is gone. The First Order still has forces. Not everything was on Starkiller Base, and I can accept that in the same way that I can accept that not everything was on the first Death Star. I mean, Snoke is transmitting his orders from somewhere, obviously. But the problem is that they've evacuated the planet. Everybody's off. They've left some munitions behind, but whatever. Everybody's off. The ships are in position and ready to jump to light speed. But Poe orders the attack anyway. Now, I could understand that to a degree. The bombers are very, very slow. There is a good chance that if they tried to return back to the command ship, they wouldn't make it in time, and the command ship would get beaten up in the process. But it's never really stated one way or the other. It is basically Poe saying, fuck the orders, I know better than everybody else, and we are going to get this giant kill. We are going to kill a dreadnought at all costs. And considering that the Rebellion and the Resistance still operate on the conceit of strike where they're vulnerable, it's a very, very bad move on his part. And he does get demoted for it. The problem is that I said, is that they can track a ship through hyperspace. So once they come out of their jump in where they're supposed to be rendezvousing with their entire fleet, the First Order is on them in a heartbeat. And they realize that they're being tracked. So they don't have enough fuel for another jump to light speed. Or if they do, they'll be completely tapped once they get where they're going. And of course, they're being tracked, so the First Order is going to be on them in a heartbeat. So the smaller, lighter ships, which are Mon-Cal cruisers as opposed to the battleships of the First Order, or the massive flying wing that is Lord Supreme Leader Snoke's massive battle castle, are chasing them through normal space, and they are staying just far enough away. They're smaller, they're faster, so they are setting it up so that they're just out of range, where the enemy's guns can't really do anything to their shields, but their fighters don't have any support. Which, that part doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But there's a solution to all this. Because Finn, in his attempt to abandon ship in an escape pod, which, as far as it's been explained, is not hyper-capable. Never seen an escape pod in this genre of this universe that can go to hyperspace. But he's going to jump out and go find Rey, because he's worried about Rey, because Rey has a transmitter that tells her where Leia's at, so she can find Leia after she's found Luke. Problem is that, okay, you're in normal space, you don't have a hyperdrive on your escape pod. Where the fuck are you going, Finn? You're not going anywhere except into an early demise. But for some odd reason, he thinks this is a good idea. He gets stopped by a technician after she beats him up and is attempting to take him to the brig. They realize that they're being tracked and what they can do about it. The plan is to go get a slicer, a computer hacker, get him onto Supreme Leader Snoke's flying fuck you battleship, and disable the tracker so the fleet can jump to light speed and they can't be tracked. And if that sounds goddamn ridiculous, it's because it absolutely is. It is probably one of the dumbest things I've read about, and it does really come off as kind of bad fan fiction. Unfortunately, that is what's driving the main plot, and it is really dumb. Now, Leia is in a coma, so to speak, for a good portion of it, because Kylo Ren and his attack wing have destroyed the bridge of the Mon Calamari cruiser and killed everybody. There is no one left from the original cast except for C-3PO. Anthony Daniels, he's the last one left. Unfortunately, the actor that voiced Admiral Akbar died, and so his character was unceremoniously killed off when the bridge was destroyed, and everybody gets sucked out into vacuum, including Leia. And I had been spoiled on this, and there's a lot of hatred towards this, and this is one of those cases where that hatred is absolutely deserved. Leia is floating in space, decompressing and turning into a popsicle when she wakes up, and uses the Force to Superman her way back onto the bridge, at which point she is leapt into the pressurized part of the ship, and it does nearly kill her, but still, it is very dumb. It is very, very dumb. So, that's the main plot. Finn and his new love interest, Rose, are going to... Well, first they contact Maz, who's in the middle of some sort of weird-ass firefight for reasons that are jokingly thrown away and never really explained. But they're going to go to a casino, or a casino planet. That part is not really specified, although it is beautiful. It is, oh my god, so beautiful. And they're going to go find, in her words, the greatest slicer. He can slice any system, he can fly any ship, he can shoot any gun with the utmost accuracy. And from the way Maz describes him, he's also a fantastic lover. Ugh. But regardless, they need this person. Now, the one thing that she does not mention about this being is what the fuck he is. Is he a human? Is he a Twi'lek? Is he a Wookiee? We don't know. Neither do Finn and Rose. All they know is that he's going to be wearing a specific kind of flower on his lapel. That's how they're going to identify him. And after some numerous hijinks, at which point Rose mentions about how evil these rich people are because they sell weapons and they support the First Order, it's very much we hate the 1%, and it is very grating. And it's also, we hate the military-industrial complex because they're responsible for all the woes in the universe. Alright, great. Fuck it. Whatever. It's not like we haven't had some hand-fisted messages in Star Wars as before, but this is particularly grating. They find, well, not the person that they want, but the person that is available at the time. You just have to kind of wing it. And it is Del Toro. I can't say his first name. It's like... God damn it. He's in the credits. He's not on the poster. It's like Benicio del Toro. I can't say his name properly. And he's actually very good in his role. He comes across as creepy and arrogant and slimy, and he does it very, very well. He's also massively underused in this. He's, I think, maybe got a whole 5 minutes of actual screen time. So, they find their slicer. But while they're doing that, we need to cut back to Rey and Luke. Now, in possibly the worst case of a character assassination I've ever seen in any story ever, Luke is not in fact searching for the last Jedi temple. Again, spoilers. Well, he kind of is. He looked for the last Jedi temple because he was so overwhelmed by guilt and shame that he'd come there to die. because he has given up on everything. Except living, apparently, because he's working very hard to do that. Just he's waiting. He's running out the clock. He's cut himself off from the Force, his friends, his family, everybody that matters to him, for reasons that I'll elaborate in a moment. So we have the end scene of The Force Awakens with Rey gazing upon him with wet eyes and a hopeful expression of just, oh my God, it's Luke Skywalker, and I am going to squee with just pure joy, and hands him the lightsaber. And he looks at it, looks over his hands, and then promptly throws it off a fucking cliff. And refuses to train her, refuses to talk to her, refuses to join the Resistance or help anybody. He does not care. And the reason he does not care is because when Ben Solo was sent to him for training, he could sense a growing darkness in Ben. And unfortunately, this is where Luke Skywalker diverges so fully from the character that we know from the original trilogy into what he has been turned into now. And I can see why Mark Hamill was so very, very upset with this. Because Luke went to Ben's room one night after training him, and senses his mind, burrows into his soul, and sees the darkness there, sees the rising evil, and sees his future, which apparently he did not get the message from Yoda that you cannot read the future because the future is always in motion. He has forgotten one of the key lessons he was taught, and for which he paid so dearly for. And so, Luke Skywalker, the man who saw a spark of goodness in Darth Vader and risked everything, risked his life, risked his father's life, stood before the Emperor and was tortured because he believed so much in the redemption of his father, looks upon a young boy, ignites his lightsaber, and prepares to strike him down. For a moment. And then he relents and realizes that he can't do it. And Ben opens his eyes, and all he sees is a scared little boy, at which point things go completely pear-shaped. Ben brings the room down upon them and escapes. But to be completely honest, since Ben quickly gathered his followers within the Academy, murdered everybody, and burned the entire fucking place down, maybe Luke would have been right to strike the little shit down where he slept. Unfortunately, it does go against the character of Luke Skywalker. Very much so. And now he is a bitter, shameful old man who wants nothing to do with the galaxy, wants to destroy the Jedi and their legacy because he believes that they're hypocritical, and is willing to stand by as the entire galaxy burns, including his sister, and does not even know that Han Solo has died because he has cut himself off from the Force and is waiting to die. It is possibly the worst turn that they possibly could have done to Luke Skywalker, and I understand fully why Mark Hamill was so very upset by it. But in dealing with Rey, he starts to come back to himself. He starts to see the things that he's lost, the things he's given up, and the character starts off at a very rocky place. They do redeem it by the end, but he should never have been in that position to begin with, in my opinion. And more to the point, the driving focus of The Force Awakens is that he had left a map. He was going somewhere. The temple had been destroyed. He was trying to everybody thought he was going to try to reconnect to the roots of the original Jedi and find that light and find that majesty. But it wasn't the case. He'd gone to die. But if he'd gone to die, why did he leave a map behind? Why did he tell anybody where he was going? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense from the perspective of Luke Skywalker's character, but also doesn't make any sense from the perspective of the movie that fucking preceded it. And it's just ridiculous. There are also... He has found the original Jedi Temple. There also are caretakers there, and Rey's there for days. And it's just the two of them. Along with the porgs, there's cute little bird things that Chewbacca keeps trying to eat that keep looking at him with, like, as Puss in Boots is like, Please, sir, I'm a cute, innocent little animal. Please don't eat me. And he can't find himself to eat him, but whatever. But once Rey actually damages a part of one of the structures with her blaster, suddenly there's caretakers everywhere, and they're all pissed off. They're, like, doing laundry and making food and, like, repairing things, and they're all pissed off at her. But no sign of these things beforehand. But eventually Luke does come back to his old self and delivers possibly one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars history. I will shit you not. But we cut back from them to Finn. And they're on the casino planet. They're trying to find... They've seen the guy that they need to get. Unfortunately, they illegally park their ship and get captured and thrown in jail. Because, of course, they did. Now, they don't specify where this planet is. From the look of it, I would almost say it's corporate sector, although I don't think the corporate sector has been mentioned in Star Wars canon. I haven't read any of the new books, but as far as the movies are concerned, I don't think it's ever been mentioned. But from the expanded universe, it really does have a corporate sector feel to it, and I really like this planet. I think it's really cool. Unfortunately, they also enslaved the local indigenous four-legged creatures to use them as, for horse races, and they beat them, and they have children slaves, and they beat them when the animals don't perform, or when they're upset, or just looking to have a little bit of fun. And so they are unmitigating assholes because they have to be for the plot. And having broken out of prison at the hints of Del Toro's character, they proceed to go hide in the animal pens. At which point Rose shows one of the kids who's about to hit an alarm that, no, she's with the Resistance, and she turns her ring, and she's got a magical signet ring that has the rebellion symbol on it. That's actually kind of cool. I like that part. And then they proceed to ride the animals through the casino, which has now been woefully empty, because as you get to the casino, it has this long shot of just thousands of well-dressed and rich beings gambling and drinking and smoking cigars and having a great time, and they're dancing, and they're laughing, and they're enjoying themselves. But when it's time for Finn and Rose to ride those animals through this casino and just absolutely devastate it, it's practically empty. And it's practically empty because Finn and Rose are the heroes, and we cannot have them committing genocide by riding these one-ton creatures through this casino and over everybody in sight. It's really dumb. You could have completely cut out this entire subplot, and the movie would not have suffered for it at all. Especially considering that, like as I said, the entire contrivance of it is dumb to begin with. You cut out the B-Wings that were canon in the original films, which were fantastic heavy attack bombers. But in Star Wars Rebels, which is something that they took from the expanded universe once it became Legends, the Empire had constructed an interdictor cruiser, something that prevented anybody from going into hyperspace. And it generates a massive field that just doesn't let it happen. There's absolutely no reason to have gone through all of this to have a slicer get them onto Snoke's capital ship when they could have simply had an interdictor cruiser flying along and had something to do with that. Because if you're smuggling anybody on a Snoke ship, why is it not a team of demolitionists to blow it the fuck up? Oh, God. It's just so dumb. But I digress. So now we have to cut to Finn, or not to Finn, but we cut from Finn to Poe. Poe is very upset because, as far as they can tell, the ships keep running out of fuel and getting destroyed, but all the crews from the ships are getting onto shuttles and going up to the main command ship, the Mon Calamari battleship. Actually, they call it a cruiser, but it's a battleship. It really is. Star Wars has this really weird problem where they don't really know ship designations at all. It might be a Star Destroyer, but that thing's a battleship. Let's not pussyfoot around with it at all. But they don't know what the plan is because Leia's in a coma. Laura Dern's character, Vice Admiral Holdo, is taking over command, and she's not telling anybody what the plan is. And it's really dumb that she's not. And for some odd reason, Laura Dern is like a foot taller than she should be, and I think they used some CGI to make her a little uncanny valley. She looks alien, but not alien. It's really weird what they do with her. But Poe, being the hothead that he is, organizes a mutiny because he thinks they're all going to die. Except the entire plan is to keep the cruiser going and then have everybody get on those shuttles that are being refueled, use the cloaking technology on the shuttles that has not been mentioned to this point, and then fly to an old rebel base that can be fortified while they wait for reinforcements. Except, one, she didn't even tell the command staff or their officers. And I get it, these guys aren't military, but most of them are veterans of the war with the Empire. A lot of at the upper chain of command. They should know that you talk to your people and explain what the fucking plan is, and they don't, and it's very, oh god, it's fucking dumb. But if anything at all, we have Supreme Leader Snoke creating a force bond between Rey and Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is so conflicted through this entire film because this is right after he's killed his father. He had a chance of killing his mother and he couldn't take the shot. His wingmen blew out the bridge of the Mon Calamari bridge. So he is massively conflicted. And she can sense that. And she's bonding with him. And it seems like she could turn him back from the light, even though Leia has completely given up on him. Luke has completely given up on him. Everybody's given up on Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, with the exception of Rey. Rey thinks she can save him. And so she leaves Luke's island, having been taught nothing. We get some banter back and forth between them, a lot of snarling and bitterness from Luke. He teaches her how to open up herself to the Force. She goes to the mandatory dark side location and sees a vision of herself. She wants to find out something about her parents, but she doesn't, because reasons, they're nobody. Apparently, they're unimportant to the plot, like so many things are, as we'll get into. And then she decides that she's going to leave, and she's going to go to Kylo, because she can turn him back to the light. She can save him. She sees that spark of the light in him, and she wants to kindle it. And so she gets captured. At this point, Finn and Rose and their slicer, whose name I do not know. I did not catch that at all. Del Toro has this weird verbal tick that he's doing that I can only understand like 3 out of 4 words, and not one of them was his name. Betrays them, so now the First Order know about the cloaked shuttles. They run a anti-cloaking scan, because that's apparently a fucking thing, and start bullseyeing them from orbit. So the resistance of around about 400 personnel is now down to about 20. There's a fight between Finn and Captain Phasma, who is now back. She managed to extract herself from the trash compactor before Planet Death Star exploded. And she's suddenly here. Because why would she not be? Now, she's going to execute everybody except for the Slicer, who's betrayed them. And surprisingly enough, they pay him off, give him his ship, and let him leave. Well, at least they would if Laura Dern hadn't turned the cruiser around, seeing that the shuttles are getting blown away. And in possibly one of the greatest visual feats I've ever seen in sci-fi, fires up the hyperdrive and blows Snoke's capital ship clean in half. It is just visually so glorious. I cannot describe it better than that. It is probably one of the greatest scenes I've seen in a sci-fi film. But now we have a chance for Finn and Phasma to fight. He kicks her ass. She's apparently blaster-proof. That chrome on her armor deflects blaster bolts and doesn't even really phase her it much. So she dies, because there's no way she's coming back from this. And while this is going on, Supreme Leader Snoke is busy torturing Rey for information about where Luke is, only to be betrayed by Kylo Ren, because this entire time he's been treating Kylo Ren like a whipped dog. His last words in The Force Awakens are, "Bring me Kylo Ren so that I may complete his training." And instead just kicks him around the entire time. It's really dumb. So Kylo Ren says, I see what my purpose is, and then kills him to take over. And there's a big fight with Rey and Kylo versus Snoke's Praetorian Guard, which visually cool at certain points, but it's very dumb as well. And we don't learn anything about Snoke at all. Who is he? What species he is? Why he's doing the things he is? Where he learned his force powers? Or why he's so strong with the dark side? None of this. He can create a force bond between two force users that are almost on opposite sides of the galaxy. But he can't figure out that Kylo Ren's about to fuck him in the ass with a lightsaber. And that's it. We don't get anything about him or his motivations at all, except that he has been cut clean in half. And his legs fall off his throne twice. Once when Kylo cuts him down, and later on again when Hux walks in after the fight with everybody is done, and Kylo Ren is lying there unconscious, and he decides not to shoot Kylo because Kylo woke back up. As he's walking up, Snoke's legs fall off his seat again. It's really dumb. So, the plot itself is not great. It's not. I would probably put it up there with Attack of the Clones. And, yeah, I'd say if I had to rank them, I'd say Attack of the Clones is like my least favorite, followed by Revenge of the Sith. I throw Phantom Menace just clean out of the runnings because it's a movie, if you've never watched it and you started with Attack of the Clones, not only is it more true to what Obi-Wan Kenobi tells Luke in A New Hope, but you don't lose anything out of it at all. The movie itself is utterly pointless, in my opinion. It doesn't really world build, and it's terrible. This does some world building. It does some character building. And unfortunately, a lot of the dangling threads get thrown away. But the one thing I have seen a lot of people complain about is the surviving resistance, aka now rebels, because they are actually rebelling against somebody, have made it down to their bunker installation. And the First Order are coming after them with AT-STs. AT-ATs. Actually, I don't think there are any AT-STs there. But they've got AT-ATs, the Armored Transport All-Terrain Vehicles. And they also have what I've been described as AT-M9s, or M6s. Named that because of the giant M6 blaster cannons in their hulls. That are like 3 times the size of an AT-AT, because if there's one thing that the First Order does, it's the exact same thing as the Empire, just bigger, somehow. I don't know where the hell these guys get their resources from. I don't think anybody knows where these guys get their resources from. The magical war fairies just start dropping gifts in their stockings every year until they have this massive armada and massive amount of forces. But a lot of people were complaining, is like, why is Kylo Ren, who's now taken over the First Order after force-choking Hux like a bitch, doing this massive ground fight? It's dumb. Why not just bomb the site from orbit? There's a line from Poe as they're getting everything set up on the base that he's diverted all power to the shields. It should allow them to hold out until the rebel factions on the Outer Rim can come to their aid. And that line gets missed by practically everybody, apparently. Just like in Empire Strikes Back, the rebels have a shield generator that's going to protect them from orbital assault. So they're going to have to send in the walkers. And they're dragging this giant turbo laser powered energy drill thing to get through the main doors. Main doors are just massive hunks of iron. But while this is going on, well, Finn can't stand not doing anything, and he and Poe decide that they're going to take some really beat up skimmers, go try to blow this thing up, because if this thing gets through the wall, the First Order is going to sweep through, kill everybody before reinforcements can arrive. And they fail horribly. They get absolutely slammed. But after all that, Luke Skywalker, in the flesh, walks out from the depths of the cave system that they're hiding in, that their bunker is constructed out of, walks through the hole in the shield wall, and every piece of artillery, every gun, every blaster, every armored transport turns its guns on Luke Skywalker and glasses the shit out of him. And when the dust settles, he's still there, dusting off his shoulder, giving a smirk. It's the Luke that we remember. He's younger looking, and his beard is brown again, and is not so shot with full of gray. And Kylo Ren goes down to fight him. And Luke schools him. Never lands a hit, never actually strikes a blow, but dodges every single swing and emotionally breaks him, in my opinion. But as it turns out, the entire thing was an illusion. And this is one of the main problems that I have with this scene, is that it's the entire planet's red, but it has a thick layer of salt on it, probably about 4 or 5 inches deep. And every time somebody takes a step, you see red footprints. When the skimmers are going through, they're leaving contrails of red behind them as they're digging into the ground. And everybody does it except for Luke, which is the clear indication that he's not really there. The problem is that after the entire firepower of the First Order forces have been directed towards him for a good 5 fucking minutes, the entire area is glassed. You can see the glass on the ground and how it's scorched, and it's extending for dozens and dozens of yards around him. And when Kylo goes down to fight him, it is also like that. But when the fight actually starts, it's all pristine and white again. So they cheated visually to give you that little heads up of maybe Luke Skywalker's not really there. They took something that was established and threw it away to make a good scene. Which is the same thing they did with the tracking devices for the ship. The same thing that they did with Snoke. The same thing that they did with freaking Kylo Ren going back for training. The same thing they did with Luke Skywalker being at the last Jedi Temple. It's just like, hey, we want a really good scene. We want to take this in different directions. So just fuck what came before. It doesn't matter. And even with all of that, I still loved the movie. And I'm still going to go see it again. This movie, as I've said, is not without flaws. It has some massive flaws in it. But I do not think it deserves the full amount of hate that it's been getting. And it is in a lot of ways what The Force Awakens should have been. Visually stunning, with good character-driven plots. I mean, the plots are fucking dumb in so many ways, but the actors did a great job with it. Rey comes across as a much more balanced character. Poe is much more of a hothead than he was the first time we saw him, but his character didn't really get developed at all. Finn comes across pretty well, honestly. I didn't like John Boyega's performance in The Force Awakens. I didn't like the character of Finn at all, because he's a child soldier who's been raised his entire life to be a stormtrooper, but he's a janitor. And more to the point, he doesn't act like someone who's been a soldier his entire life. A better portrayal would have been the movie Soldier with Kurt Russell. That is how someone who's been raised to be a soldier their entire life should be acting. Slightly emotionless, not really good with the lingo, doesn't know how to interact with people. He pretty much knows how to follow orders and kill shit. And we didn't get that. And I think that was to its detriment. And we could have had that in the first film, and then him become more of a person in the second film. I think would have given him a much stronger character arc, as we did with Kylo Ren, who started out very self-assured, very powerful, but also after killing his father becomes very conflicted. You can see the cracks in his emotional makeup and in his mind. And can I just say that Adam Driver is buff as shit. I did not realize how big that guy got. Rey comes across a lot better. Luke, Mark Hamill did a stunning job as Luke in this film. He had trash to work with, and he polished it into gold. Carrie Fisher did not have enough of a screen presence, and that's very, very regrettable, as I've said. But the problem is that everybody except C-3PO and R2-D2 and Chewbacca are dead. If they were in the original trilogy, they're gone now. Everybody is gone. But the light of the Jedi has been handed off to a new user. The Resistance, aka now the Rebels, once again, will carry on. This should have been the first film. Honest to God, this should have been the first film. and they should have cut out The Force Awakens. They should have started with this, because this is the lead up to the second Galactic Civil War. And then we should have had a second and a third parts to this. Instead, this is the second part. They've radically changed it. They've killed Snoke. They've killed Luke. Carrie Fisher is not going to be back as Princess Leia in the next film unless they do some CGI shittery. And they've already said that they don't want to do that. I don't want them to do that. The film itself, like I said, I enjoyed it a lot. I've spent more time talking about its flaws than I have, but only because there was so much about it that I would spoil otherwise. But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a great film. Is it without its flaws? No. Is it free of deliberate criticism and well-deserved criticism? No. But it is still a good Star Wars film. And you know what? Don't even take my word for it. Go see it for yourself. At this point, I'm just going to go into Rotten Tomatoes and try to kick up that rating a bit, because for all its flaws, it was still a Star Wars film, and I still loved it. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you enjoyed the movie, and if you don't, I can understand why. I just wanted to bring a little bit of balance to the criticism, even though I've spent more time criticizing it than anything else. I am the War Boss Squeak, and I will see you guys later. Peace.